What's going on? I'm Michael Seitz, joined by Alberto Calderon, and this is Cal and Seitz. Possibly our last Tuesday on the channel for a little bit, going back up to school next week, going back to the radio station. We'll have more info for you on that on Friday, more than likely, as we go along and figure out what we're actually going to do. So stay tuned for that at some point. We got NFL to cover. We got some college basketball tonight. Maybe working some hockey and NBA. We'll see what happens there. But Alberto, how are we doing today?
I'm good. This might be our last Tuesday show on YouTube for a little bit, but I'm excited to be back on the air next Tuesday at 9. So 88.3 The Buzz.
Oh, yeah.
Tune
Gotta
in
love
for
it.
sure.
Gotta love it. And we'll put links to that in the bio or wherever below the video, so you guys can access that. But let's hop right into it. We got 4 NFL games to go through. The conference championships are set. You went 2 for 2. 2 for 4. I went 3 for 4. Take that. Okay, the Packers beat the Rams 32-18. I don't know if the game was really that close. There was a part of me that thought the Rams might make a little comeback after their opening possession in the second half, but I think everybody pretty much knew the Packers would win. Jared Goff played well, not great. 21 of 27 for 174 and a touchdown. Cam Akers is going to be really good for a really long time, in my opinion. He had 18 for 90. On the other side, Rodgers, 23 for 36 for 296 and 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones, 99 yards on 14 carries. He's really good too. And Allen Lazard, the leading receiver, 4 for 96 and a touchdown. Adams did have a touchdown against Ramsey, though. It was a brilliant play call by LaFleur, had him motion to one side and then outright sprint back and caught Ramsey on his own guy, basically, set a pick for him. So Packers are dangerous. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty interesting game. I thought the Packers, once they were up, I think it was 17-3 or 16-3, they were going to run away with this in the second half. But LA made it close. It was a 25-18 game to start the fourth quarter. And, LA had the number 1 best defense in the entire league, and they couldn't make a stop. They couldn't get the ball back to Jared Goff in the offense. If you have the number 1 best defense in the league, you got to be counted on to make a stop, especially in a divisional round game at Lambeau. They didn't do enough, that defense. So, that Aaron Rodgers dime to Allen Lazard to put them away, to put their season away, that was beautiful. And the Packers, they look dangerous. They look real dangerous. And, if I'm Brady and the Bucs going to Lambeau, I looked at the weather for that Sunday afternoon game.
It's going to be cold and snowy.
It's like 18 degrees. It's probably going to feel like less than 10. That's not good.
Now, the one advantage that Tampa does have is Tom Brady played New England for 20 million years.
Exactly.
So he's used to the cold. So that will help. But everybody else on that team.
Lambeau's a different type of cold than maybe New England, but it's still a tall task. This is the first time ever that Rodgers is hosting an NFC Championship game. And I did not know that.
That was
surprising. Yeah.
He's been to so many.
He's been to so many. He went to one last year where he lost to San Francisco. The one where he went to the Super Bowl and won. That's the year that they beat Chicago, but they were in Chicago.
That was in Chicago. I remember that because I was rooting for Chicago in that game because the Packers would eventually beat the Steelers.
Exactly. So,
and I think he's been to a couple more. I think he's been to at least one more. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's only won the one that was in Chicago. So against a much weaker Bear team. I don't know if this Buccaneer team is much weaker. I think it's weaker, but we'll have more on that on Friday in our preview show. I think we're going to have the panel back on for that one too. So, all right, our Saturday night game, the Ravens and the Bills. We were expecting some fireworks. That didn't happen. 17-3 Buffalo. The Raven defense played extraordinary as well as the Buffalo defense. Only 10 points allowed. The 7 was on the pretty much, if you want to call it final nail in the coffin, just the way the game was going. Lamar Jackson threw into quadruple coverage for some reason. I understand he didn't see the guy who picked the ball off. It was a very nice play by him to kind of lurk and then jump in front. But without him, you're still throwing into triple coverage. It was a bad decision. Picks it, 101-yard return. there was an offensive lineman, I believe, who could have had him at the 2 and just completely missed. It was like a really bad missed tackle.
A bad angle, yeah.
But, I mean, that happens. Also, the wind up there was something else. And Tucker missed 2 field goals. Bass missed 2 field goals. It was ugly. You never see Tucker miss, but that wind had to be – they were saying it was like 10 miles an hour. It had to be worse.
Yeah, it was way worse than that. You know, there were so many different dimensions of this football game and how it just unraveled. You know, obviously with the nail in the coffin with the Teron Johnson 101-yard pick six. And, you know, he was just lurking there. And, you know, that's the thing that separates good quarterbacks from great quarterbacks. You see that undercover cornerback lurking right there, and you kind of just have tunnel vision. And as soon as you release it, you're like, uh-oh, I see him right there. And, you know, that's what happened. But Lamar just has to get better in the playoffs. Obviously, the receiver position is obviously their most weakest spot on that team. But he's still, you know, he still has to develop as a pocket passer. He hasn't proven himself. He's 1-3 in the playoffs now. But, you know, the Buffalo defense showed up. I didn't think they were going to show up in this game. I was completely wrong. I'll admit that. And, you know, Josh Allen didn't have to do much. He didn't have to do, you know, anything. He led a couple drives. Should have made a field goal there. But he led that drive out of the halftime to the touchdown to Stephon Diggs. But that was pretty much it. So I'm excited to see.
Any adversity? Did he face any adversity for you?
He didn't have to face any adversity, you know, again. But he's going to face adversity this weekend against Kansas City.
Even with Chad Henne? How do you think can happen, Alberto?
Mahomes is going to suit up. There's no way they don't throw him out there. But,
I'm going to save my pick for Friday.
Yeah, I'm not making any picks right now.
I don't know if it's going to be close. I'm just going to say that right now. So.
Okay. But as a Steeler fan, what did you think of this Ravens team?
Oh, that was hilarious. It was so funny. I mean, I honestly obviously hate the Ravens.
Yeah.
But from going to school up in Western New York, do not like the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
I want to root for them so bad, I just can't. I love Allen. I love Diggs. I just can't root for them just because of everybody up at school. But, I mean, I was just happy someone was going home after this game.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I was looking at it. So to me, it really didn't matter who won. I guess I'm glad Buffalo won because Baltimore's out of there from a super rivalry standpoint. But I just want to say the Bills only had like 22 rushing yards in the game. They're going to need to fix that if they're going to want to win the next 2 games. And they don't have to run a lot. They just need to make sure that they can rely or fall back on that. If Josh Allen has a bad game or is inaccurate, which he did look a little bit inaccurate last week, but that also could be the wind. So, but 3 years in a row now. So I don't know that 3 years ago against the Chargers, I don't remember that game great that the Chargers beat Baltimore. It was Lamar Jackson's like second start ever, his first playoff start or whatever.
Yeah.
They did shut down the run game pretty well in that. And then you saw last year the Titans shut down the run game, and this year the Bills shut down the run game. You force Lamar Jackson to throw, you're going to win the football game. He's not a pocket passer, Chris Collinsworth. I'm sorry. He said that on the broadcast. I don't know why he did that.
Well, he's kind of right because at Louisville and
maybe at Louisville, not in the NFL. I'm not.
Yeah, no, exactly.
He's not a pocket passer. Yeah. He's a very good runner. He's a very good playmaker. He can make that throw every once in a while. But if I need somebody to make a throw on like 4th and 5 from the goal line, and the guys are coming, they're going to stop the run. I need somebody to make a throw. It's not Lamar Jackson. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
So, and we saw that him throwing into quadruple coverage. I mean, every quarterback does it every once in a while, but that was really bad. So
that's bad. That was their season right there, that throw.
So now before we move on to Sunday's action, I want to jump back to the Rams and Ravens real quick. What are you looking at for next year for the Los Angeles Rams?
Ooh, I'm looking at they got to develop I think they have to develop the receiver position as well.
Even with Cup was hurt.
Cup was hurt, and that definitely had an effect on the game this past weekend. But him and Robert Woods. They're not the fastest guys in the league. No. They're pretty slow. They're not the fastest. And Jared Goff, I think this is going to be a defining year in his career because we've seen him. He's been to Super Bowl. He's almost won a Super Bowl. but he's not that guy that can lead this team for the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not. And I was reading an article earlier today. The Rams, over the next 1 or 2 years, they're going to be maybe $50-60 million over the cap.
That's
so
a problem.
This might be the last year of this mini dynasty that they've had. You know, they probably have to trade away Ramsey. They probably have to trade away maybe even, who knows? Maybe Aaron Donald. Who knows? But I mean, the first thing that they have to do is evaluate Jared Goff's play for this coming year. So that's why I look at it.
So in the draft, you say receiver.
I say receiver. Yeah, the defense is figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Running back is figured out. Quarterback is figured out, although he's not the best. But they have to draft maybe even a tight end.
I would say I'm agreeing with you, and they need a weapon. But that weapon could also come at 25 or 26 as a quarterback. I don't know who. I would have to look. I haven't looked at any mock draft stuff. I don't look at mock drafts till after the Super Bowl personally, besides obviously the first 3 or 4 picks. But I know there's a decent amount of quarterbacks in this class. There's probably going to be, I don't know if you want to call it a high-profile quarterback here, but even if the Rams possibly trade back from 25 or 26, whether that's to 30, 31, 32, whether that's to early second round, to get a quarterback, because at 25 it may be a little early to take somebody.
Yeah.
I could see them doing that, but if they don't go quarterback route, which I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, then you take a wide receiver or a tight end. So
I agree. Yeah,
now the Ravens, I can't figure these guys out, honestly. And I heard they're starting to have some of the same frustrations that we are as Steelers fans about playoff success now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Harbaugh's going anywhere, as I don't think Tomlin's going anywhere. He's not. But they need receivers, or do they need a running back now? Because I don't know if Dobbins is the answer. I mean, what do they need here?
They definitely need a receiver. You know,
offensive line maybe.
The offensive line is solid, but if you have Dobbins and Edwards, they're both really good running backs. I think you can do one more year with them, with that little tandem that you got there. They just released
Ingram.
Mark Ingram. I mean, he was completely useless this year, so that was a good dump by them. But I think you need to draft a wide receiver. Willie Snead.
Hollywood Brown is a good fringe one guy when he can catch. But he's not that solidified number one that I think. I'm just going to use the Steelers as examples. I don't want to call Claypool and Johnson solidified ones, but I'm just saying they're closer to that number one receiver status than Hollywood Brown is right now.
I agree. Hollywood Brown is not that Stephon Diggs type number one receiver. Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
He's not that dude that can run routes accurately. He's not that Stephon Diggs. He's a straight vertical wide receiver. And, Mark Andrews is there. He's one of Lamar's favorite target, if not his favorite target. But they need a guy in the draft. I don't know, I think what I've heard is this is a good draft class for wide receivers. Obviously, I think Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith are going in the top 10, top 15. But maybe, the Ravens picking at late 20s.
I could see a trade up. I could honestly see a trade up. I keep using the Steelers, but they've done all this stuff before. How they traded up to get the middle linebacker Devin Bush, they jumped up from 20 to 10 or whatever. I could see the Ravens possibly jumping up from 25 or 26 or whatever they'll be at to 15, 14 to get maybe if Waddle is still there. So
Waddle's a possibility too. I completely forgot about him. But the Ravens are in a good direction. Harbaugh.
Yes, they are.
Harbaugh 3 years ago he had 1 foot out the door, and then Lamar saved his job.
Yeah. So
Baltimore
also,
is going to be this.
Patrick Queen, their rookie. Yeah. He cannot cover anybody. He can't cover anybody. And I was real high on this guy. I was upset when the Ravens picked him because I thought he was going to be really, really good. He's good at stopping the run, but I thought he was going to be like a Devin Bush or a Devin White, who have both had phenomenal first 2 years or however much Bush played this year before getting hurt. But I thought he was going to be basically a carbon copy of those two, and he has not lived up to that his first year. Of course, a lot of time left for him to prove himself, but just initial reaction, he can't cover anybody. So
of course, and I'm excited for this AFC North division for the next 3 to 4 years because this is going to be an absolute dogfight.
And even if without Roethlisberger, that defense is still going to be good. And you saw what that defense did with freaking Duck Hodges. They still went 8-8. So if they get somebody competent back there, or if Rudolph is their answer, I know we had this whole conversation. Then you got Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns, who don't look like they're going anywhere. They got to get rid of OBJ, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
The Ravens and Lamar, and that defense is good. You've got the Steelers defense, and they still have weapons. They just have to figure out the quarterback position. And then, don't forget about Joe Burrow. They need a lot of work in Cincinnati. They need a new head coach, too. I'm not a big Zach Taylor fan. But don't forget about them over there. They could make some noise in 3 or 4 years if they draft well. So it'll be very interesting to see. Great point about the AFC North. And speaking of the AFC North, Chiefs defeat the Browns 22-17. I thought this game was over after the opening drive. After Mahomes marched straight down the field. I will say, I hate to admit it, but the refs did miss the helmet-to-helmet on the fumble through the end zone for the Browns. That resulted in the touchback and giving the ball to Kansas City, which is a stupid rule in itself.
I agree, yeah.
But at the end of the day, you got to live with it, and you got to go with it. 22-17 is the final. Mayfield threw for 204 yards, a touchdown, and a costly interception to start the second half. Mahomes, before getting hurt, was 21 for 30 for 255. And that was playing, 3 quarters, if that?
Like 2.5.
Darrell Williams got most of the carries, 13 for 78. Hill, 8 receptions for 110. Chubb, 13 for 69. It felt like he had a lot more than that, though. It was pretty obvious to beat the Kansas City defense in the run game. You just run straight up the gut. Of course, Cleveland's been doing that all year with success, so it might be a Browns thing. But Chad Henne came in and saved the day. He was 6 for 8 for 66 yards. He had the big run for 13 to set up the 4th and short that Andy Reid went for, which was a brilliant call. I'll talk more about Andy Reid in a little bit. But what do you think about this game?
This game also had a lot of action going on. The first drive, like you said, with Mahomes going right down the field, marching. It was so easy for him. He just did it, and he was just. And then with Cleveland coming back in this game when Mahomes went down, and I thought Cleveland was going to win this game.
I thought so too.
I thought Chad Henne had no shot whatsoever to lead them to a victory.
Well, it wasn't Chad Henne for me. It was the Chiefs defense for me. I was more concerned about the Chiefs defense than Chad Henne getting the job done because they already had the lead, so he didn't need to do much. He did exactly what he was needed to do. But it was that defense that was really starting to scare me towards the end there.
You're right. And when Chad Henne threw that terrible, terrible interception.
Oh, that was bad.
And, the Chiefs defense stepped right up when Cleveland got that ball.
Mm-hmm.
They stepped right up, and, the Chiefs defense has been on the fringe this entire season. They're not as good as last year's defense, but they got the job done, and they're advancing to the AFC Championship game, and that's all you need. You need one stop, and they got that stop. So, and if KC didn't, or if Henne didn't convert that 4th down play and gave the ball back to Baker Mayfield, that game would have been over, and Cleveland would have been heading to the AFC Championship game. I don't think KC would have been able to get one more stop. I really do not think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I really don't think so. But for a Steeler fan, this is a perfect weekend. Browns and Ravens lose. See, the Steelers were so far advanced that we knew that the AFC North wasn't getting to the AFC Championship game, so we got the better draft pick. Joke's on you, Cleveland. Joke's on you, Baltimore. But, no, really, I want to talk about Andy Reid for a second.
Yeah.
Andy Reid's play calling before the last play that won them the game, awful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely terrible. So you run Mahomes once, which they do that every once in a while, and it looks like he hurt his ankle, maybe turf toe or something. Mm-hmm. So you think, okay, he's not as mobile. He's obviously hobbling around a little bit. So what do you do on the next drive or the 2 drives later? You run him again. He goes down. Concussion, which I didn't even think was a concussion at first. I thought he tore everything in his ankle and foot.
Yeah.
I thought he tore tons of ligaments, Achilles, front and back, whatever. It looks like his foot turned the wrong way. But somehow he gets a concussion out of that play. But the bottom line is he should not be running in that situation. You've got Bell, you've got Hill, you've got Williams, you've got I'm forgetting another running back. You've got so many options to run that exact same play. I don't understand that one at all. And then there were a couple other play calls like the Chad Henne interception. What are you doing there? If I can recall, it was third down. If you run the ball, even if you don't get it, you're running tons of time off the clock. You're in field goal range, or you're close to field goal range. I don't know if you try it with Butker, but you at least pin them deep. It just worked as a punt, I guess, but momentum and everything there. So it was a stupid play call by Reid. And even on that last drive, the run by Henne was not designed. That was a pass.
No.
First down, you run the ball. Second down, they threw it. Thank goodness Hill caught the ball. I mean, he still got out of bounds, though. Then you take the penalty to back you up. So it's 3rd and 14 or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, 3rd and 14, 2 minutes to go. Run, get the clock down to 120 if you don't get it. Instead, you're going to go and try and throw it, and thank God nobody was open. So I guarantee you that's not ending well.
Yeah.
And luckily for you, Henne runs, and then, I mean, I guess you make up for all that with the last play call, but still, it was just – it looked like Andy Reid of 2 years ago and prior choking away playoff games.
I agree. I totally agree with you because prior to 2018, Andy Reid, he hasn't had success in the playoffs, especially with, the Philadelphia Eagles. And then in this game right here. But then he drew up that classic Andy Reid play when he had Alex Smith at quarterback, a little inside out route with Tyreek Hill, who's the fastest guy on the planet.
Roll out Henne. It's great.
And they get the first down and game over. They're advancing. But, and I want to talk about this Cleveland team. This team is going in the right direction. This team has a lot going for them because, they have the best offensive line in the league. They have two of the best running backs in the league in Hunt and Chubb. They have Baker Mayfield, who took, dramatic leaps this year. And he looks like their solution for the next 10 years. This team is going to be contending for a Super Bowl next year. I think they're going to be contending
defense needs to get better.
I agree. I definitely agree. But I think, if they don't make it to the AFC Championship game next year, I think it'll be a disappointing year for them.
Really? I don't know if it's that soon. I think they overachieved a little bit this year, especially – no. I'm just not saying that it's an overachievement beating the Steelers at home because I'm a Steelers fan. Like, that's a huge win. That's an upset. You weren't expected to win that game. And then to contend with KC here, it's surprising to me. And it all goes down to they started playing this way after Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt and left that locker room. And I don't think that's just a coincidence. OBJ is a cancer wherever he goes. I'm convinced they need to trade him, cut him, get rid of him, something. Let Tampa pick him up for all I care.
Yeah.
They need to get rid of him. He's not good for them. And that being said, Cleveland in the draft, in the high 20 slots, either need to look for that receiver, unless you think you already have one in-house, which they might, or you need to go in the secondary. I know you've got Ward and is it Kevin Johnson back there?
Yes.
For the Browns, but they need somebody else back there. Safety, another corner, something. They need somebody back there or another receiver, number 2 receiver, something like that, or both. So
I agree. And I definitely agree with the Odell situation because, when you have Odell on your team, and I think Baker could agree with me, he was trying to force the ball to Odell Beckham.
And that's how Antonio Brown was before he went, crazy and everything and left Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So. Exactly. He was trying too hard to throw the ball to Odell. And, he was trying to make him his favorite target. And, he's not even – his favorite target is Rashard Higgins.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's trying too much. And, like you said, it's not a coincidence. As soon as Odell Beckham got hurt, he left the locker room. This team just turned around, and they made it to the AFC Divisional Round. And they almost beat Kansas City.
Who, again, won a game that they should have won by a lot by one possession. Just want to point that out.
Exactly.
So
listen, look, Cleveland, their eyes on the AFC North title next year.
Absolutely.
That's their goal, I think.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch the top 3. And who knows what the Bengals are going to do. They're not going to be a playoff team, but they could play spoiler like they did this year, or almost did this year.
For sure.
So it'll be very fun to watch that. I'm trying to think who the North plays this year, division-wise. I'm pretty sure it's the AFC West and NFC North.
Yeah, you guys have the AFC West.
So it's going to be really interesting because you've got Kansas City, you've got Herbert and the Chargers who are improving. The Broncos really can't go any farther back than they did this year. And if you get the Raiders in the beginning of the year, watch out. And then if you look at that NFC North, Packers aren't going anywhere.
No.
The Bears defense is very good. The Lions never know what you're going to get with them, but they could – I hate to say they could win any given day, but
They
for the
can.
Lions. So they could either go out and lay an egg or they could come out and play it tough. And then who knows what we're going to see from the Vikings next year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very tough schedule for these teams. I'm very interested to see. I don't know if we're going to have another 12-4 or what were the Steelers, 12-4, 13-3, something like that.
Cool.
I don't think we're going to have another one of those teams.
No.
I think the winner of the division, I think we're going to have two teams at 11-5 and a team at 10-6. And just because of the tough schedule and the tough interdivision schedule, especially. So, all right, let's move on to our final game, the Bucs and Saints. Sad day. Drew Brees probably playing his last game. Buccaneers 30-20 win. Brees 3 interceptions, did not look good at all. Brady 199 yards, 18 completions on 33 attempts and 2 touchdowns, did not look good in the beginning of the game. Brees 19 for 34, 134, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Those are 2 future Hall of Fame quarterbacks, by the way. Not even throwing for 200 yards in a playoff game. Kamara looked like great, like he usually does. 18 for 85 on the ground. Fournette 17 for 63 on the ground. He's really come on in the playoffs. Mike Evans had his touchdown. He's just every time they get down on the goal line, it goes to Evans. And Brady did one of his patented QB sneaks to seal the game.
Yeah.
Get in there. So before I throw it over to you, do you want to start with the Bucs or the Saints here?
I'm going to start off with this Bucs defense.
All right, go ahead. Start with the Bucs defense.
They showed up.
They did.
They showed up.
They did.
And I'm very, very impressed with this Bucs defense because you haven't been high on them.
They can have good games. They can have good games. They have in the past.
You haven't been high. Well, I mean, this was the game, though, and they showed up.
It was. They got a bigger test next week, though.
They do, and I don't think they'll get the job done there. But they did all they could, and they helped Brady win the game. You know, if the Bucs defense, I think the Buccaneers scored all their touchdowns off of those turnovers.
All their touchdowns were, I think, 50 yards or less on drives. Every single one.
Exactly.
So I'll get to that offense in a minute. You can keep talking about the defense.
You know, if that Bucs defense doesn't show up, Tampa Bay doesn't win this game is not close. This game is not close at all. So, I'm going to switch it over to you. What do you got to say?
So, the Bucs offense, they're scoring drives. 67 yards, stalled field goal. All right, that's an okay drive. 1 play, 3-yard touchdown. That was after the near pick 6 by Bunting. Is it Murphy Bunting?
Bunting, yeah.
Let's see what else. 63-yard field goal at the end of the half. 40-yard touchdown off a turnover. 61-yard field goal. 20-yard touchdown. And 26-yard end of game. Those aren't impressive numbers. I mean, I can't take it away from them because that's where they were given the ball and they took the opportunity and capitalized. But their longest drive was like 61 yards for a field goal. 67 yards for a field goal. And if they're going to beat the Packers next week, they need to cash in on those 67-yard drives and make them 75 or 80 or 85 or whatever they are. Because you can't beat the Packers like this because Aaron Rodgers isn't turning the ball over like Drew Brees did.
Not turning the ball over 3 times. That's for sure.
He might not turn it over once.
Not once.
He's not going to repeat his performance that he had in Tampa earlier this year where the Packers were up 10-0, then got beat 38-10 where he threw 2 picks. That's the most he's thrown in a game all year, and that's not going to happen again. No. The Packers take care of the ball, the Saints don't. We'll get into that on Friday, of course. But I need to see more from Tom Brady. I was not impressed with Tom Brady. I was impressed with Leonard Fournette again.
I was too.
That's probably it. So the Saints, I love Drew Brees, great guy. I hate to say it, he's got to hang it up. I think he's going to. He just doesn't have it anymore.
He doesn't.
He really doesn't. He looked really bad. Winston threw the 56-yard touchdown, and that was actually the play that the Bears ran against the Saints the previous week that the guy dropped in the end zone.
Right, with Wims.
With Wims. Trubinsky lined up out there, whatever. They did a little toss, pitch around, and threw the touchdown with Winston this time. Jameis Winston, he's got those new eyes. I love saying that. He got LASIK last offseason.
Yeah, LASIK eye surgery.
I really think he's a good fit with the Saints there if he takes care of the ball, which I think he can do. He had a year to learn under Drew Brees. He's got Sean Payton as his coach now. He's got better eyes, better eyesight. I think this team can still be successful going forward, especially that defense is severely underrated. So
okay, so if you're saying that if Drew Brees retires in the next coming months, you think Jameis Winston is the solution for next year?
Next year, yes. Future, no. Next year, yes.
Okay.
I could see them taking a quarterback. I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
But I think they've got to go probably either O-line or somewhere on defense. Even though it's good, it could still improve in the secondary.
Okay. So you don't think Taysom Hill is the answer? No.
Okay. He was in there. He barely threw the ball.
True.
I mean, Taysom Hill's a fantastic weapon. Sean Payton knows him, knows how to use him, knows what he can and cannot do well, and he takes advantage of that. And I think that's what he is. He's a super utility man, like in baseball. Yeah. Can play any position well and can hit. This is what Hill can do. He's a super utility man of football, first of its kind, honestly. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if he starts featuring maybe not a dual system quarterback system with Winston and Hill, but say Winston plays 85% of the snaps and Hill plays 15 at quarterback, I think we might be seeing some other guys come out of college, like Taysom Hill, and start putting together these super utility players that can throw the ball every once in a while, that can line up with the quarterback and run, they can go catch the ball, can play special teams, they can do everything. I would not be surprised if we saw a couple more guys coming out like that who either get drafted late or don't get drafted at all. So,
so you're saying, Sean Payton and Taysom Hill started, a little trend that can go around the rest of the league.
Possibly. I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying I could see it. I could definitely see it. So who do you think they should take with their pick?
I don't know. Just right off the bat, I think they should probably take an O-lineman. Their O-line is pretty good. Kamara ran all over the place this year. I mean,
Kamara's also a beast. So
exactly. He's also one of the best running backs in the league. Maybe an O-lineman. But this year is a big year for them if Drew Brees retires. This is going to be one of the first years that they're not supposed to be all that good. Maybe Jameis Winston can be their guy. I don't think he is their guy.
Not long term, though.
No, not a long-term solution. That's all Sean Payton has ever known, Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how he's going to develop him even further. He needs development. He needs to start taking care of the ball.
But it's not like he's a rookie coming in and he stinks.
Yeah.
And has no experience. Like, he's played multiple NFL seasons. He's thrown tons of touchdowns. He has the passing yards title from 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
He threw for the most yards. Granted, he went 30-30, but I mean, it's not like this guy's never played quarterback in the NFL. He just got to read defenses better, and that's not even Sean Payton's job to do. That's the offensive coordinator. It's a quarterback coach. That's even Taysom Hill can help with that.
Yeah.
It'll also be interesting to see if Brees maybe comes back for a year as a coach. I doubt it would happen, but you never know.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I see Brees definitely in a booth role, definitely doing a color commentary.
I could see that. I could see that too, like Romo almost.
I see. I don't know where. I mean, it's a tough now because you have Romo in that slot. You have Aikman there.
Aikman stinks. I hate that crew. Fucking Aikman are terrible.
I like Aikman. I like him. I don't like Buck, but I like Aikman.
There were a couple times during the New Orleans-Tampa game where I said, "Really? Thanks, Troy. Didn't know." Stating the obvious. Like, oh, that was a throw by Tom Brady. Thanks, Phil Simms. I mean, Troy Aikman. So, now the NFC South.
Yeah.
Saints, Bucs, Panthers, Falcons. Saints need a quarterback for the long term.
Yeah.
Falcons need a quarterback for for the long term. Ryan's not playing many more years.
No.
I don't think Bridgewater's the answer. As much as I love Teddy, I don't think he's the answer in Carolina. I think they need a quarterback at some point. And Brady only has 1 year left on his contract. He's going to play that, and I think he's probably going to call it after that.
I think so, too.
Or at least call it in Tampa. Who knows if he goes somewhere else. But I think that's it for Brady after next year. So this is a old quarterback division, other than obviously Bridgewater. But 4 teams who need franchise quarterbacks coming out. It's going to be very interesting to see what this NFC South becomes in a couple of years. It could, I don't want to say NFC East levels of bad, but it could become very mediocre for a couple years while they transition. So,
I agree with you. I definitely think the NFC South, if, none of those 4 teams in the next 2 to 3 years figure something out, like you said, not NFC East level bad, but, you've always had the New Orleans there as the staple. You've had a couple years with Atlanta, Matt Ryan throwing, for 4,000 or 5,000 yards for a couple years. You had Carolina for a couple years with Cam Newton. Tampa has never really been there. But I think it's going to be the first time in a while where, NFC South is going to be pretty weak. We're probably going to see an 8-8, 9-7 NFC South champ.
And we usually talk about the NFC South. We have one team from the NFC South, at least it's a Super Bowl contender, and that's not going to be the case for coming up. But I look at the NFC South, could be like the AFC West this year, obviously without the Chiefs as that much of a juggernaut. The AFC West this year, 14-2, 8-8, 7-9, 5-11. I think we could see a 10-6, 8-8, 7-9, 5-11, 4-12 sort of thing. I agree. So I don't think we're going to be able to see the prestige that the NFC South has really become used to having, at least with the top 2 teams. So on Friday, we'll talk about Bucs, Packers, Green Bay 3-point favorites as it stands. Chiefs up to 3-point favorites against the Bills. Very interesting. So I've got my Super Bowl pick still alive.
Yeah.
As do you, I believe.
Yep.
So be very interesting. There, we'll have the panel back on for that. So let's talk some college hoops. We haven't talked any college hoops this year, or at least on the show. Real quick, your top 5. Gonzaga 14-0, Baylor 12-0, Villanova 8-1. They played tonight, first game in a while after COVID shut down. Iowa 12-2, and Texas at 11-2. So my question, out of those 5 teams, 1 through 5, who has the best chance to win the national championship?
Ooh, what I saw from last night, the Baylor Bears are dangerous.
They are.
I think that, with that, I love guard play in college basketball. I think it's more important than a post guy, an interior guy. I think guard play definitely carries more importance in a college basketball game because you need to be able to distribute. You need to be able to push the pace sometimes. And I think Baylor has the guards and Jared Butler and Maceo Teague to win a national championship. And their defense is stingy too. They held Kansas to 69 points, really, maybe 60 points because after, the last 3 minutes, it was garbage time. It was over.
Yeah.
So I like Baylor. I want to see how they stack up against Gonzaga. We didn't get to see it earlier this year because the game got canceled due to COVID.
Unfortunate.
But I like the Baylor Bears right now, and I like the statement they showed last night. So who do you like in that top 5?
So I love Baylor Bears too, but the Gonzaga Bulldogs are something else. Their top 3 scorers, Kispert, Timmy, and Suggs, are 3 of the best scorers in college basketball, all on one team. And we know Gonzaga plays in that weak West Coast Conference, which at some point I think they need to move. At some point, I don't know to where, whether that's I don't know if the Pac-12 will take them. They need to figure something out, even if it's to the Mountain West. That's better competition.
Yeah, I think so.
But they play a hard pre-conference schedule. So they've already beaten Kansas, Auburn, who's no slump, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, and I believe that's it. So those are solid wins, all of those teams. And this Gonzaga team is very good. I love all of these teams in the top 5. They all could win it. But Texas is not a sleeper because I don't think there is a sleeper in the top 5. But this might be the best Texas team since Durant. So
and that Texas team wasn't even that good.
No.
That Texas team was barely ranked. They had Durant, they had Avery Bradley on that team, they had DJ Augustine, who are all in the NBA now. And that Texas team wasn't that good, but they had a perennial generational talent in KD. But I like Texas. I like Texas more than Iowa, quite frankly. Iowa.
Nova. I'm not high on Nova.
Yeah, I'm not high on Nova either, especially they haven't played in a month, and I think they're on upset watch tonight against Seton Hall.
Seton Hall, yeah. That should be a very good game.
I think they're on upset watch. Iowa, defensively, they're not the greatest team. And, Iowa lives and dies by the three. If their three's not falling, like we saw in the Minnesota game, they're not going to win. They're not going to win a game. They might get upset in the second round to a 7th or 8th ranked team or 8th seeded team.
Possible. Very possible.
I'm not big on Iowa. I like to watch them. I like Garza. I love watching them play. But Iowa, they have to figure some things out schematically on the defensive end.
All right, so we'll do 6 through 15 here in the latest rankings. Tennessee, Michigan, Houston, Kansas, who's having a down year, Wisconsin, Creighton, Texas Tech, Virginia, West Virginia, and Ohio State. So that group of 10, who do you like most out of them?
Oh, definitely Michigan. I think personally, before the Michigan lost to Minnesota this weekend, I thought Michigan was the 3rd best team in the country, right behind Gonzaga and Baylor. Tonight's game should be really interesting against Maryland. It's 10.5 or minus 10.5 for Michigan. I don't think they cover. I think they'll win the game, but 10.5 is a little bit of a stretch, especially against another Big Ten competitor in Maryland. It's tough, but I like Michigan. They're one of the most offensive, or their top offensive rated teams in the country. I don't think they're title contenders, but I think they're right there with Baylor and Gonzaga. Just a tier under. Just a tier.
And I'm gonna go with a team who flew under the radar all the way to the national championship a couple years ago. It's Matt Mcclung and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Their guards, they're right up there with Gonzaga and Baylor with guard play, in my opinion. Their guards score. They're very good ball handlers. They could be very dangerous come March. They just beat Texas. They hung with Baylor. They've had some quality wins. They've had some bad losses too, but they've had some quality wins. They only lost to Kansas by 1. It'll be very interesting especially Big 12 tournament time is going to be so much fun. The Big 12, honestly, might be I don't know about the best conference in college basketball, but it's pretty close.
They're right under the Big Ten, right under.
Yeah. Baylor, Texas, Kansas, Texas Tech, and West Virginia all in the top 15.
Mm-hmm.
And West Virginia is below unranked Oklahoma State and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. And I want to talk about 2 teams real quick. I want to talk about Minnesota and Illinois. Illinois has gone through a little bit of a rough stretch, but their big 3 of Ayo Dosunmu, Kofi Coburn, and Andre Curbelo, if they can get going, they can upset anybody in college basketball. And same thing with Minnesota. We saw when they beat
Iowa,
when they beat Michigan, when they beat Iowa, and especially when they're home, they can compete with anybody. So I like Minnesota and Illinois if they get to the Sweet 16 to make some noise. I really do. The Big Ten is so deep.
They are. Big Ten is very deep. So just to round it out, 16 through 25, Virginia Tech, Minnesota, Alabama, who has flown severely under the radar, Missouri, who I'm not sold on. One minute I love them, the next minute I hate them. They're very inconsistent. Clemson, Oregon, Illinois, UConn, who lost yesterday to St. John's, UCLA, and then the St. Louis Billikens out of the A-10 who have not played in a month either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just on the outside looking in, Louisville, Colorado, who I think could be dangerous come tournament time, Oklahoma State, Florida State, USC, Duke, and Drake, who is a very deep sleeper who we'll get to in a minute. So we talked about the Power 5. We call it the Power 6 in college basketball. Throw the Big East in there. So then you got your group of 4 mid-majors that are the Atlantic 10. You could throw in Gonzaga's West Coast Conference in there. Who else in there? Mountain West, and who's the last one?
The American.
The American. So out of those 4 conferences, obviously, besides Gonzaga, which team can make the deepest run out of the mid-majors?
Ooh. Well, you also have Houston out of the American. I'm not that high on Houston. I like their coach. I forget what his name is. And I like St. Louis.
I do like St. Louis a lot.
They haven't played in a month, and I'm interested to see how they play against the Bonnies this Saturday.
We're gonna get a first-hand look at them.
That's a huge game, and the Mountain West is actually pretty deep this year. The Mountain West has I would say maybe 4 legitimate conference tournament teams.
Mm-hmm.
You have San Diego State, Utah State, Colorado State, and I think it's Nevada. I forget.
Okay.
But I like Gonzaga and Houston the most out of their respective conferences. And then, the battle between St. Louis, Richmond, and St. Bonaventure, let it begin.
The St. Louis UMass game for tomorrow just got postponed, which is not a good sign.
Probably COVID within the St. Louis program again.
Yeah. St. Louis is 7-1, 0-0 in conference, where every other team has played at least 4 games, excuse me. But the A10, we didn't know how deep that conference was actually going to be this year. We knew they were going to be good.
Yeah.
But you look at it, obviously you got Bonaventure, Richmond, and St. Louis. Dayton's having a down year, but still 4-2. They have a talented group of freshmen that are coming in next year too. Davidson is always there. Rhode Island's always there. Now you have VCU, who I thought was going to be actually in the bottom half of the conference this year.
Yeah,
they're there. UMass is 4-1.
UMass
I didn't think they were going to be this good this year. I thought next year was going to be their big year. And then Duquesne's 2-4. They've got a lot of guys transferring out, but they can still make noise on any given night. So it's going to be very fun to see how many teams the A10 gets in. I think the A10 is deserving of 3 teams at least.
I agree.
Especially in a down year by the ACC. Like Duke and Carolina right now not ranked, Louisville not ranked, Florida State not ranked. Of course, Louisville and Florida State should be in anyway, but I'm just saying it's a down year by the ACC. Yeah. So you got to look at a St. Louis, a Bonaventure, or Richmond. I think those 3 almost not guarantees to be in the tournament, obviously, but those 3, at least 2 for sure. And a third needs to be seriously considered if they don't win the conference. And then going beyond that, if VCU keeps this up, if, I don't know, somebody like Dayton could sneak in if they keep it up, if they win maybe the A10 tournament. So it'll be very interesting to see there.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're definitely going to have that automatic bid with the conference champion. You want it to be someone else than St. Louis, because St. Louis is going to get an at-large bid. Yeah. So if say Bonaventure wins the conference championship, let's say VCU does, or Richmond does, or Dayton, they surprise someone. I definitely think the A10, and it shouldn't just be the case this year with COVID and an ACC down year. The A10 they're right there. They're better than a mid-major. They should never be considered as a mid-major. Let's compare it to the Southern Conference or the Sun Belt. They shouldn't. I think the A10 is deserving of 3 spots every single year.
And I think the A10 might be better than the Pac-12 in all reality.
The Pac-12 is having a better year than the last couple of years that they've had.
Top to bottom,
it's A10 for sure. But, at the top of the Pac-12, you have Oregon, Colorado, you have Stanford, USC, UCLA. Those are all 5 teams.
They are good teams. They're very good teams. But if you're matching up everybody from the Pac-12 and A10, I like the A10 to win the majority of the games. But like you said, if you do stack up the top 5 against each other, I think it goes 3-2 either way.
Ooh, really?
I think the Pac-12 and A10 are very comparable.
I still have to go with the Pac-12. Pac-12 gets a lot of talent from all over the country. A10 is a little bit more regional, depending on where you're recruiting from and where your school is. I still like the Pac-12 there. I like that debate, though, between them. But, as you can agree, the A10 is deserving of at least 3 at-large bids, or one conference champion, 2 at-large bids every single year. Every year. So, and last year it could have been, Dayton, conference champion, St. Louis, and Richmond. All those 3 teams are NCAA tournament caliber teams.
Absolutely. And you could have made a case you could have made a case if a Bonaventure or Duquesne went to the A-10 championship game and competed in it, lost at the buzzer, say to a Dayton, because I don't think Dayton was losing at all.
Yeah.
You could make a case for them to be the first 4 out, even at the worst.
Exactly.
So
Totally
very
agree.
deep every year. Great conference, obviously a little favoritism for us, but I think that's all the time we have for today's episode. We will be back on Friday as usual. We'll have more information about the change to the buzz on Tuesdays. We will still be posting videos here every Friday, though. I'm pretty sure, Alberto. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll let you guys know what's going on. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, comment below who you think is the most dangerous college basketball team this season. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching.